This isn't one of those haunted game stories. At no point are you going to hear me claim something within the game spoke to me, reacted to my words, or forced me to punch myself repeatedly in the face. No, this isn't about a haunted game or a game doing something impossible or even something it shouldn't have. This isn't about a glitch or a hidden satanic message, and at no time at all did I phone Nintendo headquarters, only to have my questions answered with hushed whispers or screams. This story is about a game feature I don't think anyone has actually unlocked. That's it, no ghosts, no conspiracies, just a secret we're all supposed to find but never did. Something that changes an entire generation's childhood and the very essence of a multi-billion-dollar franchise. This is about what I assume to be a previously undiscovered alternate ending of Super Mario World for the Super Nintendo. In 1996, I received my first computer as a birthday gift. I had been on the internet before, had used computers before, but it's only been at school or at a friend's house. This one was mine, all mine. I explored the crude prehistoric web of all time with great interest. I pirated lots of media like a madman, music, games, anything. This was where I first discovered Mario World. I'd never used a Super Nintendo as a kid, so it was all new to me. I downloaded tons of games along with the Super Nintendo emulator, but Mario World was by far my favourite. For over a decade, the same Mario World ROM was my time-wasting hobby. I played it over and over again, beating the game faster and faster until I began to lazily explore the world with no particular purpose. Game Genie codes helped a lot. I could turn off the timer and relive a particularly entertaining map for an hour as I waited for a download or any number of boring events. There was a lot of comfort in the obsessive-compulsive behaviour of this routine, but all of that was shattered when I first saw the Blind Boo. The Blind Boo, as I referred to it, was hovering over the exit of the haunted sunken ship level later on in the game. I call it blind because it actually had no visible eyes. It was like someone that had just made a lazy ROM hack, but I knew from years upon of experience that this was a normal game. The Blind Boo was just hung over the exit pipe, blocking it. I turned my back on it, but it didn't chase me. How could it? It didn't even see me. Then I noticed something else out of all sorts. There was a key and keyhole misplaced above the exit. Keys and keyhole are such a way of ending the lever in an alternate manner and discovering a secret area. Still, this doesn't even belong here, and I knew it. For a moment I considered the fact that I actually broken a ROM file from overusing it. After taking a screenshot, especially to show all you Mario Bros out there, I picked up the key and opened the door, figuring the game would seize up and I had to reset it. Instead, it actually opened the door and lead a new path on the map selection screen. A whirlpool next to Bowser's already creepy head cave thing. I pressed the right arrow and moved onto the whirling drain. Oh god, no. This really didn't strike me as odd because if you're familiar with the Mario World game, there is an area called Star Road that you may know has similar names. Just stuff like Tumblr and Awesome and all the manner of dumb words and phrases. Most of the areas were called Vanilla Forest 1 and Donut Mountain 3 and all of that, but there were maps with odd names like that. What did concern me though was Mario's expression, surprise, shock, fear. I entered the map. Oddly enough, the whirlpool in the middle of the lake began with the standard castle entry animation. Mario walked up to the castle door, looked up, and then went in. I could tell this was underwater though because of all the bubbles that emerged from the sprite's mouth and floated at the top of the screen. Inside the castle it started to look more and more like I was in fact experiencing a glitch. There was no room to jump, no room to do anything but left and right. I must have gone right for 10 to 20 minutes, just holding the B button and running along at full speed. After a while I ran into 1 or 2 blind boos in the darkness above, then 3 or 4, and then the screen was full of them. They just kinda hung there, doing nothing. They wouldn't chase me if I turned back, as with the previous blind boo. If I made any noise, like Mario's jump sound, they would just kinda shudder a little bit, like they have heard the sound of Mario's movements but couldn't do anything about it. Then something made me stop and turn the other way. Now I knew beyond a shadow of doubt that this map was designed purposely to screw with the player, not because of the giant bleeding bill, but with the fact that this map was unescapable. There was literally no way to avoid being killed by it, as you can clearly see as above. That's it. Unless you're like me and you have the Game Genie cheats on hand, I switched on the code for permanent invincibility. I let the bleeding bill chase me for a while when I was invincible, just to get a good look at the thing. I stopped and killed it with my invulnerable touch. Only when I saw a message that hadn't been there when I passed it before. I hate you. That kinda creeped me out, but on the other hand it was kind of an interesting because it meant that this was definitely a map that was supposed to exist. There was some sort of plot element here, something undiscovered. What did it mean? Who hated me? King Koopa seemed to be the obvious answer. Or maybe just a ghost. When you're in a haunted castle that you found by way of a haunted ship, a bloody looking hate message isn't so unbelievable. I saw it again as I approached some giant boos. I was thankful that the blind boos ended at this point, because the more I watched them shudder, the uneasier I felt, almost unpathetic towards them, etc. The thankfulness ended when I turned my back on the giant boo and this happened. Giant boos with faces that I haven't even seen before. They always looked mad and, being awakened, angry that you were invaded their haunted houses across the Mario World island. This was different. They were looking gleeful, demented. I could see right down their throats, which seemed odd given the lack of detail their mouth usually displays. And yes, of course I'm going to address that message you saw in the picture. Why don't you die? I don't know why. Am I supposed to? Who's asking? I let the giant boos touch me, and they died like the bleeding bills, of which I had to encounter too. Despite any attempt to scare the player, I knew that being invincible meant invincible, no matter what they threw at me. After a while of running down to the strange claustrophobic corridor with no more eventful happenings, I came to a room with an exit pipe. Taking the pipe downward, I came out of the other end and dropped into a room filled with water. The water made sense, this being a sunken castle beneath a whirlpool and all. I was rewarded for my troubles with a question mark block that released a mushroom for me. I could easily done this with a cheat code, but then the thought escaped from me as I faced all of these new and strange sights. The first creatures I encountered in the underwater portion of the game were twomps. Unless you have been living under a rock since the mid-80s, do you know twomps are stone-like square creatures that hang from the ceiling and fall whenever you come near. They try to crush you, essentially. While these thwomps lined up in a tight row dropped repeatedly and random with no real trigger or any sense of logic. They would just kind of wait or drop whenever they seemed to feel like it. It also looked like twomps had been very successful twomps. More cartoony blood. It was pretty unusual for the Mario Bros franchise, which I hadn't recalled seeing blood in it at all. Now I'd seen it fused 3 times, the bloody brills, the messages, and those smashing grinding thwomps who were all working their victim, into the pulp forever. In the hampering effects of the water, I walked slowly under these things, making sure every single one of them touched me and died. Those were almost like 30 of them in a row. The sight of them mindlessly crushing over and over again just made me hate them with an unsettling intensity. What's weird is that the blood caused Mario to slide as if he were on an ice level. After walking through, I swam into a more open area that was filled with spikes on the floor and ceiling. It was difficult to swim into the manor without touching the spikes, but since I was invincible, I didn't think much of it. I avoided them more for fun than any of the sense I'd be damaged. It stopped being fun really fast though. Now I knew some of what was going on. The bloody mess of the twomps were ending in splattering. It was one of the other past Marios, that had tried to transverse the level and failed. I admit this was an excellent touch, even if it was a bit ghoulish. Whoever designed this map actually broke the fourth wall and showed you the bloated, motionless abortions of the player's own careless treatment of the Mario's tiny life. The bodies only float straight up and down a tiny bit as to show the effects of a light current. It was genius, and I couldn't believe it. I might be the first and only person to ever see this. I toyed with the idea of taking more than one screenshot as I just presented to you, basically so all you reading this can enjoy the secret map as much as I had, especially this weird little touch, but without swimming, without kicking or moving in any way, the dead Mario started to come at me like a torpedoes. Their faces remained blank and blue and dead, but they moved with an amazing speed. They angled, and worked all sorts of unique strategies that left me almost nowhere to move. They continued coming at me and squirming and backing up to try again, and I just couldn't bring myself to let them touch me. I've moved with more speed and skill that I've ever done, frantically trying to keep Mario free of the drowning victims that seemed dead set on rocketing straight into him. When I finally reached the purple exit pipe you'd see above, there had been 10 of those things right behind, pitching, turning and chasing me. I entered the pipe as fast as I could, thankful that it worked properly and had Mario out of the situation in a heartbeat. The corridor that followed was empty. Thankfully, it was just a blue underwater hallway of sorts, with nothing to avoid or kill. It was boring, unpredictable like the game had been all these years, which brought back a sense of safety. At the end of the hallway, I came to the standard pair of doors that you entered when you face the final boss. Besides the doorway, a mushroom power-up. I didn't touch it. Going through the door was as you expect. The typical change of map views occurred, and Mario standed on a bridge over the boiling lava. Or had it been blood all along? When Mario walked onto the bridge, however, there was no boss creature. Instead, Mario immediately looked into the side and froze. I couldn't control him anymore, he just stood there. Keep looking until you see it. I didn't even see it at first, so I didn't expect to notice it straight away, if you still haven't spotted the thing. Look in the third window from the left. FYI, that's not usually there. Mario seemed to regain his composure, and looked back and forth slowly, surveying the room. There was still no boss, and I still couldn't control him, so I stopped trying and just watched. This went on, and on. For what seemed like forever, nothing happened. Then a familiar face walked in from the right. Dressed in green, tall and angry, it was Luigi. Mario recalled in horror. It's difficult to say without thinking how crazy it sounds, but Mario really reeled back with a sort of terror that was uncharacteristic for such a peppy, happy-go-lucky mascot like him. Then Luigi spoke. You thought Koopa worked alone? It was all connected now. The message scrolled on the walls, I hate you and why don't you die? Luigi. He's always been Mario's second banana, the player 2, the one who doesn't get the princess in the early games. No matter how identical he is to Mario in skill set and ability and the tendencies and bravery, at the end of the day the game is Super Mario Bros. And he's just the brother. How he must have hated Mario. Who amongst us wouldn't? Think about it, no matter what happens, Mario always comes back. No matter how many corpses he leaves littering the battlefield, he's always there once more to leap and cheer and get all the love. And Koopa hadn't worked alone. I didn't know what that meant at first, if anything, but again, you just have to think it through. How exactly does King Koopa constantly succeed in kidnapping the princess? From day one, from the original Mario Brothers onwards, it's always been an inside job. Still unable to control the character, I watched Mario simply cower in fear as Luigi leaped high into the air, as high as he could in Mario 2. He jumped on the pathetic Weeping Mario again, and again, and again. I was powerless to stop it. When he was done, he seemed to look at Mario's limp body with the overwhelming rage. Then the bridge started disappearing. Soon, Mario would be dead, as I looked on. I had an irrational thought. Would it be permanent? Within an instant, as Luigi turned to seemingly strike a victory pose like he'd been beaten a level, Mario awkwardly got onto his feet and took him by surprise. Fear and sadness and confusion had given way to anger, and Mario overpowered his brother with a little effort. To this day I'm still haunted by the final result of his wrathful reprisal. Oh god no. That was the map's title. None of this was a glitch, none of it was a mistake. It wasn't a developer getting back at Nintendo, and it wasn't a ghost hunting a Nintendo cartridge. It was all planned, purposely part of the Mario Brothers mythos. If you beat the same level X number of times, a secret part of the world opened, and you learned from Mario Brothers through Mario Land Luigi had secretly been working against you, and was in fact the repeated abduction and abuse of the princess. But why? Money? Power? No. It was all there because he couldn't take not being the one in the spotlight, not being Mario's himself. After Luigi died, well, and truly died, Mario just sat there on the edge of the bridge and wept. I was forced to watch this for minutes on end before the screen faded to black. I played the rest of the game through to see if there was anything changed. Nothing else odd happens, as one would expect since this whole ordeal was just supposed to be a part of the actual full story. I couldn't access the Whirlpool again. I'd see the events once, and that was all I was apparently allowed. It was back to the game as usual, the same exact game I played since the 90s. And would probably continue to play for the rest of the days, where it was the same except for the final image.